Ian Carson, DCarsonCPA, MFC on the line. The title of this slide is Innovate or Freeze. It's a fun way just to say you need to be creative, you need to think about your business, where it is, what's going on. We're looking at this, we want to think about a couple of points that are important to us in looking at a business. The value of Kaizen is one of lean innovation, continual process of improvement to your business. It's pretty central to the concept of lean project and process advisory, and it's an important point to think about your business in ever continual ways towards improvement. Now, fortunately, there are some points where you hit a winning streak, and that's a good place to be, but generally it's always good to continue studying the business model, where you are, how you're performing, what's the source of your revenues, what are the source of your expenses, what are the costs and drivers within your business. And these are all areas where we can work with technology, with process engineering, and with advisory to help you track your cost. We can do it in lean, efficient ways to work with ICT, the cloud, and mobile innovation. And I really like that model. I'm interested in the opportunity to help entrepreneurs, to help small and medium-sized businesses and large businesses take advantage of the cloud, to look at a safe cloud where they can store data, where they can break out the different parts of business and not oversaturate to one zone to have all the data, because in this day and age of challenges and risk plus cyber, it's good to diversify your data and repositories and have your information in different places, but that's a whole other segmentation theory of data and how to protect your business. We could cover it at a different time. For the points on the line here, your tools for innovation or freeze, to innovate or freeze. So what I'm talking about here is basically a lot of times people can freeze in a pocket, and even a very successful business could find that its market begins to change, that its revenues begin to dwindle, expenses begin to go up, and that's a point where you could do one of two things. You could either innovate or you could freeze. Running a business is not an easy thing. It's a highly challenging thing. It takes people many years to learn how to do it. And there's no one formula for all the time. It always wins, but I'm sure one of the things is as we win more, we find the pathways that work for us, and we continue to pursue those pathways. And the pathways generally all work with some level of financial reporting to help you track your business, to think about your assets, which are the dollars, the property, the people, the technology, your marketplace, the industry, special knowledge you have about your sector, and then other things that work within your business. And the challenges are things like market forces, elements of supply and demand from economics, supplies, supplier prices, the availability of substitute goods to your business, different things from economics and the financial lines that correspond to threats to a business model. And then there's the value of change and innovation itself, which is that as you work in a line, sometimes you learn more and more. You become the expert in your line of business. Even if you're a restaurant, you become the expert in a specific plate. You have different service, different trays that you serve, different plates that you serve, sorry about that, and you become more and more expert in how to serve different dishes or how to do different things with technology for clients, all depending on your business. But you can innovate. Once you've got the value of something good, what you can do is do controlled experimentation and innovate to see, is there any way that you change your thing, does it grow? Or if you've hit it spot on, that's a great place to be. Sometimes you have the skills and potential, luck, whatever you want to call it, that you found something that's a really great product, and then you want to know, you might want to have some innovation then in terms of the way you deliver services, but you don't really want to mess with the basic ingredients for that recipe, or perhaps that technology works right to its point. A lot of times you see that with technology. You get a just right technology, and then all of a sudden someone comes along and they have to put in a few bells and whistles, and it can make your favorite software your least favorite software in the next generation. So as much as there's a value of change and innovation, there's also a value of too much change and risk, because the marketplace is averse to a lot of change and risk. And that's probably one of the complications for our business models. We're thinking a little bit ahead of market. We're thinking about integrated research, and that's a challenge, to get people to think with you ahead of time of where the market's going to, and the fact that we live in an age where AI is becoming a bigger and bigger part of business for a period of time. There's an advantage to support services like ours at DCarsonCPA that can use innovative knowledge, map it into services through the financials, and then probably after a window of time that advantage goes away. We become more automated. AI is more a part of automating everything, but for a window of time, there's an opportunity to be the innovators and help out. And then what do you do when you hit that challenge, when it hits the next phase? Do you freeze or do you innovate? The underlying line of most lines is you need to find a way to survive. There are times where it's better for you, if you have losses, to get out of the business and move on. And that's also a tough thing because a lot of times entrepreneurs' their pride is tied into what they do, and there is a quest to prove the value in what they do. So also that's another reason why innovators succeed, because you've got a passion for what you do, you've got a belief in yourself, and you'll make that commitment. And a lot of things in life, they can happen with a commitment. Sometimes it's the lack of a willingness to commit that can be the reason that people don't succeed, but it might not just be you. It might be other team members to bring through the value in team performance to other team players, get their buy-in, and get them to work with you strategically. This is an open kind of framework. We're talking about innovation. We're talking about Kaizen. Kaizen is the value of lean engineering, continual renewal in your cycles. It's from manufacturing in a bygone age in the 50s, and manufacturing, and one that we may hopefully return to. We knew to look at processes and procedures and connect costs and drivers with these lean project process and advisory skills. And that's something that we bring back to the map, because that to us in the beginning was very important. Not only external financials, accounting, taxes, reporting, but also how are you capturing that and building models of the cost and how much goods and services cost where you are. And so all that, tracking the assets, the property, the equipment, and people in your business, thinking about the challenges of a marketplace. What are the market forces in your sector? What's going on with supply and demand? Because supply and demand is where you're going to make your money. You're a coffee supplier. Coffee supply is weak and demand is high. You're going to make money. You make computer parts, and these computer parts are scarce and in demand. You're going to make money. You make a bicycle part, and everyone makes that part. Well, there's too much supply. The demand might not be that high. You're not going to make as much money. So you might have to work with pricing and performance, and that's certainly an element of advisory, and it's an area where it's deep and wide. There's lots of points where we can help, and this is just kind of a broad, not very structured, but just an open line to talk about a few things. Next up on the line, we wanted to talk about the challenge of the value of change and innovation. The value of change and innovation to a business is just to think about, is there something that I'm doing that I could do better, that would be more successful? What type of feedback am I getting from my clients? Clients can be a great source of learning and innovation, so using things like surveys, thinking about whether your clients are happy, what they're pleased with, what they're not pleased with. Sometimes clients will even give you the tools for innovation, because they'll say, I really love that dish you make, but it would be better with mushrooms. Or I really like that service you provide in the software, but it doesn't help me to communicate easily with my friends, so it's not the best platform. So get a little feedback from customers. Think about customer feedback loops for growth. On the lines of client services and vendor relationships, relationships are a big part of business. I think there was a survey I read, I think it might have been from the Harvard Business Review. There's about 30% is your business skills, your savvy if you're in a technical line. Beyond that, 30 to 40% relationships, and I think the rest of it had something to do with market forces. But this is, a good 30 to 40% chunk of it. How do you get along with clients? Clients are everything. They bring the revenue, so you want your clients happy. You also want the right client, though, because not every client that comes to your business will be a good client with you, and I'm not advocating that you be rude to anyone, but there are times when people come to you and they don't quite get it. This is a challenge for specialized services when you work with financials. Sometimes people don't want to spend the time to understand complex things, and you need to think, well, is this going to work with me? Am I an educator on this level? For us, that's okay. We don't mind to explain to people, and we like a degree of trust, but we also want to have people engaged and educated. So what we do on client services lines is we put some education into the cycle, and hopefully that's quite clear from the slides we put out and other knowledge. Our business is a model that's about educating and informing at every point in the line, for staff, for management, for leadership, for senior managers, for the economy in general. And then we think about vendor relationships. Vendor relationships can be everything, because that's how you get stuff done. You can get good pricing in your vendor lines, you can get reliable service, but it's relationships along the line. You need to have good vendors, and vendors can also be regulators in your business. You want to have a good relationship with regulators to let them know that you value what they value. The tax returns, you got to get that stuff done. You got to get your financials in. If you've got regulatory basis reporting, all that stuff is very important because it builds relationships with people in your business. Now, that's not to say not everyone in business, and we all know examples of this, is perfect on these lines, and we'd be far from saying that we're perfect on the lines, but we're always in a continual model to think about what we can do better and how we can improve to support the stakeholders, and most especially clients. There's a fundamental rule about dealing with people, and people like to be taken care of, they like to be appreciated, and I know that's not always an easy thing to do, that business is up and down, but in the majority of your cases, you need to be focused on how am I treating my clients, how am I taking care of them. A happy client can be a great asset to your business. They can be a source of referrals, they can be a source of renewal, And they can also be, as a lawyer once shared with me, your clients will be your greatest happiness and your greatest challenge too, because sometimes clients will come and you have to run an assessment. Is this the right client for me? Because the client will come, they may not be willing to understand what you do or take the time to do it. They may not communicate very well, and that you might really need that client, really want them. It might be a case that you would be, you'd have to work on relationships, and that would introduce an opportunity where you could work on the relationship. And probably what you do is, you look at it schematically. Is this a client that's appreciating my services? Are they interested in my services? Are my services correctly in line for what they need? And, if there's some point of friction where it's not really there, what might I do to change what I'm doing? Is it reachable to change it? Is it cost efficient? Is there better communication? All along the lines with vendors and clients and employee and staff, we'll find that communications is a critical element of business, because communications feeds teamwork. So part of the DCarsonCPA lines, or PRTC lines, doesn't mean that we're perfect at what we do, but it means that we're focused on, what is that element of communications, of psychology for performance, of work and teamwork. How can that all help? And then the last thing is, business exists in an ecosystem. Any business is a function of the ecosystem around it, and all these parts, are micro parts of the business: the assets, the dollars, the equipment, the people, the customers, the vendors, the regulators. It creates an ecosystem around all this, and it talks about this business in the economy, how it works and succeeds, or this entity, and what its opportunity line is. And then we have consistent truths. Consistent truths are that if you find your way to do something well, something that meets the needs of a marketplace, and also keeping your eye ahead for any forthcoming changes or innovation, because that's the age we live in where things can be disrupted, then if you're sticking to those consistent truths, be true to yourself in what you're doing. I hope you have strong compass on how to do what you do well to protect the client, to protect the interest in the sector you're in. Some things like food services, there's steps where it's hand washing, making sure that you're meeting sanitation responsibilities, or making sure that you order at the right time, or making sure that you don't have out. So that's also